We lost Loper already.
Lope Dog.
We're here. Hey guys, this is
Oh.
Steve Loper with the Heavy Hitter Podcast. I've got my co-host Josh Johnson with the shades on today from Minnesota. Say what's up, Josh.
What up, heavy hitters?
And guys, today we have a special guest coming from Las Vegas, Nevada. He just moved from about 500 yards to the east of me or so, right across this little pond in our backyards. Derek Tenbusch, aka Killing Bird. I hated to see you go, pal.
It was a bittersweet moment, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit.
Did you cry a little bit?
You know, out of all my friends here in the neighborhood, all the poker buddies, Derek was like my favorite one of them.
Yes.
We had the most in common. You know, we talk about Gary Vee. I tweeted today, Derek, that in 11 podcasts, we have mentioned Gary Vee 56 times. And the only person that I talked to about Gary Vee was Derek. Derek loves him as much as I do, or not loves him, but watches his content, consumes it, and gets what he's talking about as much as me and you, Josh.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that I am a Gary Vee OG because we started my company Tournament Poker Edge. We started 8 years ago last month, and I published a blog post within probably the first 3 months of starting the company, so roughly 8 years ago, saying that it was a Gary Vee keynote that was the spark for why I started the company. So I've been on the Gary Vee train for a long time, and still am.
Was that keynote? Was that the South by Southwest by chance, where the stoner kid was like, "Dude, it's not fair. I live in Texas and the marijuana."
No, it was. I believe it was I think it was called the Web 2.0 keynote, or it was like a Web 2.0 conference, and he was the keynote speaker. And it's the classic one where he says something to the extent of,
"You want bling bling? You want?"
Yeah, it was something like that. He's like, "There's no in fact, I'm trying to remember the date. I think he's like, there's no reason that in 2008, so that shows how old it was.
You're doing shit you hate.
Yeah, you should be doing shit you hate." So, and I was like, huh, that's a really good point. And he just made put this emphasis on the fact that you can literally decide what it is you want to do every day when you wake up, and then reverse engineer it and figure out how to get paid to do that. And I was just like, yeah, I want to do that. And I had already been doing that to some extent because I was in the music business at the time. And so that never really felt like work for me. Like, I was in the music business, I guess, about 12 years, and I loved every second of it. And never felt like I was going to work. Like, you know, I would lose sleep trying to, like, waiting to get up the next day and go to work. So then when I left the music business, that's when I was like, well, shit, now what am I going to do? Because I don't want to go get a job that I dread. You know, I don't want to be one of those, thank God it's Friday guys.
So while he was living here in the neighborhood, Josh, he, owned his own poker business. But he was also a marketing manager for a local brewery called Lone Rider Brewing. Craft beer was his passion. Poker is his passion. The dude's sleeping till noon while the rest of us fools have to get up and go to work. And he's like, "Hey guys, have a good day at work today." And it'll be Sunday morning, and we'll say, "It's Sunday, jerk." And he'll say, "Oh, I'm about to go to bed." It's always some stupid remark. Just because he's rubbing it in. He knows he's putting salt in the wound, but.
I'm trying to help encourage you guys through like gentle prodding. I figure if I give you enough crap over a long enough period of time, you'll finally go, all right, I'm going to go sell tongue scrapers instead of.
I was hustling tongue scrapers yesterday on the internet.
I saw. I almost got my free one. The tongue scraper did not make the trip from North Carolina to Las Vegas, unfortunately.
Well, I can get you some out there, man. You if you're not using them, you're only hurting your relationship.
Well, I'll be sitting in close proximity to 9 other people every day pretty soon at the poker table, so I'll be handing them out. I'm like, dude, you need this.
Yeah, for real. For real.
Don't you almost want, you're sitting at the poker table, don't you almost want the stankiest breath? So they're like, dude, holy shit, I'm just gonna let him take it.
I've honestly wondered if that's a strategy for some people, more so with body odor than breath. Like, people will come to the table just smelling so terrible, and I'm like, this has to be a strategy because they have to know that they stink.
Right? How can you not smell yourself? Right?
Yeah. But they don't seem to notice, or they just don't care. One of the
two. Dude, can I just say something real quick? Like, I don't even know if we're 5 minutes in, but dude, this is going to be the best podcast ever. I hope we look back in 10 years, whether we make it or not. I already love this shit. Like, we're talking about, what we're talking about, and I love music, and I remember you told me the other night that Killing Bird worked for Empire Records. Like,
is that it?
This podcast,
EMI.
EMI. Did I already mess that up?
Well, I probably told you wrong. I don't really know.
What up, Artie? What up, Artie?
Yeah.
I messed up Loper's wife's name. She hates me already. So this is gonna be fun. Thank you guys.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I kind of compared Josh and I's relationship to you, and I think it was Diego was the one you sort of strategized with about TPE, right?
Yeah.
So down in Miami at the Agent 2021 conference with Gary V, I sat, I had a VIP ticket and I was there by myself, and I went all the way up to the front to get the best seat. And I go and I find a seat and I say, is anybody sitting here? And it's Josh sitting there. And I have no idea who this guy is. And he sits down, he looks just like he does in this picture. And I'm just like, oh, geez, whatever. This is who I got stuck with. But all right. Well, he ends up being a super nice dude, real easy to talk to. He's not there with anybody. So we become immediate buds, and we meet him on breaks and stuff like that. And I don't know, just really nice guy, he had stuff to offer. I had stuff to offer, and we were like, two like-minded individuals. So we exchanged contact info, and then we started just talking back and forth via Facebook Messenger. I was just randomly just hit him on the video chat, and he was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just keeping in touch, bro. What are you doing? And then we just keep talking. And we're always that Gary V. We're talking about marketing strategies. We're talking about voice. We're talking about podcasts. And then all of a sudden, 11 episodes ago or 12 episodes after this, something happened where we had talked about it enough that we figured out how to do Google Hangouts, which was on YouTube Live, and figured out how to use Audacity to mix it. And now we're 12 episodes in of something that's nothing today, but it's a start. We took some action and got somewhere.
Yeah, it's amazing how it can grow. That's the most exciting part to me, is because we do podcasts to market our website, and then I also do the Twitch streaming thing, and I love that growth pattern. I love getting from 0 to 60 and then 60 to 100. I still look at our podcast numbers every single day. Like, I open them up and I see how many people have listened.
Yeah. What type of metrics do you look at? Do you look at how many listens you got? Does that get you excited at first? Like, we're trying to still grab a hold of something. Like, we know it's really, really early, and we don't have like a company behind us that we're trying to push. We're just pushing the podcast, having fun while we're doing it. But what should we look at to maybe get excited about, you think?
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much look at the most basic of stuff. How many listens did we get that day or in the last couple of days? Which episodes are getting increased listens? Because we have episodes now going back 8 years, but even the earliest episodes, like I can go back to the very first one, it still gets like 5 listens, 10 listens a day, which is crazy to me. Like, somebody just discovered it yesterday, and is listening to the first episode for the first time. I think that's super cool. What I also love to look at is the hosting service that we use provides geographic data as well, so we can go in and look at where people are listening from. And I'm always just like dumbfounded that there's like 100 people in South Africa that listen to the podcast or whatever. I just love that stuff. Plus, it can help me in my targeting of my marketing efforts. So if I'm running Facebook ads or Google pay-per-click ads, I can look and see wow, we have a lot of listeners in Italy, so I can target a bunch of ads there, or I can even see the different states. So not surprisingly, Nevada is our #1 city in the US. Actually, it is kind of surprising to me because most of our players are online poker players, so they're not really limited to someplace like Las Vegas. But then after that, it's like LA, New York, Chicago all become the #1. But yeah, surprisingly, Nevada is the #1 state for us.
I'd say there's so many poker players there. They just, whether they're playing online or live, they just want poker content.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it's that people, they might not even be from here, but they downloaded it while they were here, or they listened to it on Stitcher or whatever while they were here. So they might have been, they might have flown here for a weekend of poker tournaments and just listened to it while they were playing or something. But I find all that stuff fascinating.
Yeah.
But it's definitely cool to watch it grow. Like, I got excited when we started the company and we basically turned the switch on so that people could sign up. It was so cool just sitting there waiting for like the first subscription to come in. You know, like we all get email notifications and we're just sitting there like dun, 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 waiting. And then all of a sudden it's like ding. It's like you have a new subscriber. And then it just kept going after that for 8 years.
Awesome. Yeah, you just celebrated your 8-year anniversary, right? With TPE?
Yeah, April 16th was 8 years.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's cool.
Thank you.
We were talking about some ways to promote the podcast, and we're trying to pull out clips, like funny clips, and then trying to put a little branding on the front of it, and then have a short little clip. Any other ways that you can think of to promote something like this? I know today I got an email about ad sales podcast, and the guy had his email list, and he had put a link there, and gave a little snippet. Any other creative ways that you can think of? How many times a day, stuff like that? The paid Facebook ads. We haven't really touched base on that yet.
Yeah, I like those little clips that you guys do. In fact, when I saw those, I was like, I might have to steal that idea it's similar to kind of what Gary does with some of his Daily V stuff and whatnot. But I just think it's cool to give people a quick glimpse of what they're in for. It's tricky because our podcast is so hyper focused on such a specific thing. It's like poker. Okay, so we can go and do Facebook ads targeting people who literally like poker, hit the like button on a poker site or whatever. It's a little tricky for you guys because you mix up your content so much, which is cool and good, but it's not like you can say, okay, we're going to go, we're going to run ads targeted specifically on people who like barbecue or like fishing or like hunting or music or whatever, because it's obviously a variety show of sorts. So that makes it a little bit tricky, but I will say that I find we get our best ROI by far from Facebook ads. It's ridiculous how cheap you can be and how little money you can spend and get a pretty good return.
Yeah.
Like I would just experiment with turning on some Facebook ads and literally spend like $1 a day. Drink one less soda every day. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, loper.
And put $1 into a Facebook ad and just see how many clicks you get.
Yeah.
Like you'll be surprised. Because if that dollar buys you like 1 click or 2 clicks a day, by the time the year's over, you might have 300 new listens, Yeah. 400 new listens, whatever.
Our first milestone's 100 listens. I think today we're at like 71, but Josh and I are probably like 49 of those. So
yeah, probably.
Well, I'll make sure this one is your number 1 most listened to.
There we go. See there, Josh, that's how influencer marketing works, man. This is influencer marketing 101.
I'll send you my bill after.
We've got
there we go.
We've got a guest lined up for next Monday. He's a DJ out of Fayetteville. He's opened his own studio, and he's a producer, and he produces beats for local rappers and stuff like that. So it's going to be a totally different niche that we're going to hit, but something totally fun to talk about.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, I hope the universe blesses you with just some big winnings tonight, dude, just for being on the show. And like whatever we can do to help you out too, man, it'd be sweet.
That's awesome. Well, I'll let you know how it goes. We had a near miss the other day. We had a chance at winning 4K, and we ended up coming up a little short. But the World Series of Poker kicks off in 13 days, so the real opportunities are coming up soon.
How many events? Josh was asking me about that earlier. I said like maybe 30 or 40, but I don't really know.
In the World Series?
Yeah.
There's probably like 50 or so now.
Yeah. Wow. I know they have a bunch of those 2 7-card low stud games and all that stuff. I don't even pay attention.
Yeah. There's probably, I'm going to say 35 no limit events, and then probably 15 to 20 other types of events, ranging anywhere from $500 buy-ins to 50K. So it's like it's a ton of fun. Like I if anybody's listening to this who likes poker and has never gone to Vegas for the World Series of Poker, even not to play it, but just to be around it, it's like summer camp for poker. It's just the coolest thing, Yeah. And it's cool because it's like it's really the only, I was going to say sport, but poker is definitely not a sport. It's kind of the only activity, I guess, where you can go and see and hang out and even play with like the biggest and best in the world. You know what I mean? Like if you are a golfer, you'll never get to play golf with Tiger Woods.
Right.
But if you're a poker player, you can sit down and play with Phil Ivey anytime you want to.
Yeah.
It's like just open to everybody. So
that's so cool.
It's really exciting, and the the electricity in the air when the World Series starts is a really cool thing that even if you're not into poker, it's pretty cool to see. So if you're in Vegas during the summer, head to the Rio, walk the hallways, and just take it all in.
And that starts in 13 days at the Rio?
Yeah, I believe it's around the 28th or 29th or something that it starts. So approximately 2 weeks.
Okay. That must be what my sister-in-law is going to, Loper. I know we were talking about that.
Yeah.
She was saying that she goes to college with some gal whose dad like runs a poker tournament, and they stay at Bally's. They get some suite. They fill the bathtub full of booze or some shit.
That sounds like Vegas.
I thought she said it was a pool tournament, but she must have said poker because she is going at the end of the month. It's got to be that.
But it could be cool. I mean, there's so much shit around there, and
that's true.
The place is so popular for conventions and stuff. It wouldn't surprise me.
Right? Who knows?
Yeah, I know that the big pool tournament runs usually anyway, right after the World Series, because they always do this like time-lapse photo of all the poker tables being broken down and then the pool tables being set up. And it literally goes from like the World Series of Poker to the World Series of Pool in like 24 hours. It's
okay.
Really cool to watch.
Yeah. So maybe it is pool then. Okay.
Yeah, it could be, but that wouldn't be. Usually that's not until late July, I guess. So.
Okay. I'm gonna have to hit her up after the podcast.
KB, now you run a poker company. You were in North Carolina. You were successful for 8 years based out of North Carolina. What type of opportunities do you think you're going to be able to crack open now that you're actually in the mecca of poker, owning a poker business, a successful one there? I mean, is much going to change, or is it going to snowball and turn into something even bigger? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I anticipate a lot will change for a bunch of reasons. One is that when I left North Carolina, I also left, or I'm in the process of leaving my marketing job at the brewery. So that's going to open up a bunch of time on my part. Also just obviously being in Vegas, so many more networking opportunities, and coming from the music business. Like I still have like this little bit of a grassroots guerrilla marketing guy in me. Like, cause I came up in marketing when you sat out in front of the Roxy in Hollywood and handed out flyers for your band, or handed out CD samplers or stickers or whatever. So I can kind of go back to that mentality a little bit with the World Series being here. And I can, I have a garage full of boxes full of t-shirts and hats and stickers and postcards and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be hitting the Rio a lot for that kind of stuff. But then also just the fact that we just had some pretty encouraging legislative news for the gambling world, where the Supreme Court ruled on sports gambling, essentially opening it up to all the states to begin allowing sports betting. And most experts seem to think that that's going to snowball into poker, online poker as well. So if right now 3 states in the United States allow regulated online poker, if we see that spread to the other 50 states in the next year or two, it's a huge windfall for us as a company. It'd be like if you were one of 5 marijuana growers, and in a year's time every state legalized marijuana.
Yeah,
that's what the equivalent of it would be, because there's about 5 training sites out there that are worth anything anyway.
And you've had that huge head start on building your reputation. It's going to be like a Budweiser brand compared to all these new startups back in the day.
Yeah, we already have that, not only the awareness and the credibility, but a massive mailing list, of a really solid social media presence, etc.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I plan to just do a lot more content creation, because one thing I've always been bummed about, and you and I have talked about this, Loper, like we had talked about you doing some video stuff for me and stuff like that. I just never really had the time for it, because I would spend half my day working on Lone Rider stuff. I spend another half of my day working on TPE stuff, have dinner, see the family, and then play poker till 3-4 in the morning, and then just do it all again. So I'm really going to try to get good at my video editing and start putting together some vlogs, because the reality was, being a poker player, you could be something in North Carolina and make it an interesting vlog, but being a poker player in North Carolina was not incredibly interesting, because you could hardly ever play live. So you can only vlog so much about sitting at your desk playing online poker. So being out here, I'm looking forward to getting better at that and just doing more of it. Whether that's more podcasting, more vlogging, or even if it's just the fact that I can take way more Instagram photos or whatever, just way more opportunities. So
we talk about, like after we get done the podcast, I have to go through and watch the podcast to try to find some interesting clips. But if I had an intern, or if I had, a room of 5 interns in here or 5 employees, I could be like, all right, guys, we just got done with the hours worth of content, chop it up, bring me the best one.
Yeah.
Right.
That'd be freaking awesome.
$100 to the intern that comes up with the best Instagram clip, like that would be that'd be awesome.
I know there's some poker vlogging has really picked up out there with like the Nemi guy and the guy who sleeps in his car and a couple other rascals out there that are trying to do it. But Andrew Neem, is it Nemi or Neem?
I think it's Nemi, but I'm not actually positive.
Yeah, he's good at editing, and makes a difference.
Yeah, I feel like if you can't, I mean, I know there's something to be said for just doing it and just getting it done. And I've done a little bit of that with some vlogging stuff. But I just want to use this as an opportunity to basically improve my skills, not only put out good content, but just get better at editing and whatnot, storytelling in general. So I'm actually thinking about they have all these online courses and stuff. I'm thinking about taking one in like video editing or something, just to try to get better at it.
I love it, man.
That'd be cool. Is that through like Udemy or who is that through, Derek?
Yeah, like my marketing manager at Lone Rider, I signed her up for an account. I think it was at Udemy, if that's how it's pronounced. But there's several of them that are like basically subscription based, and they literally have anything you want. You can be like, I want to learn how to use Instagram effectively, and it'll have like an hour-long course or whatever. Or I want to do video editing, or I want a podcast, or I think they even have stuff for like, how to use Microsoft Word and things like that. I don't want to learn that. That's boring. But all the other stuff I'd like to learn.
That's cool, man.
Well, I had mentioned in the sort of the show notes that I was going to talk to you about the road trip across the country and also what it's like leaving friends behind. Like I grew up in Fayetteville. My friends were all military. So I grew up thinking that, I lived in my house my whole life. Like I moved once a mile away, and I thought that's what normal people did. So every time I'd meet a buddy and say he'd been here for a year. Well, in 3 years, he's gone to Germany or he's gone to Korea. And I used to get pissed. Every time somebody moves, I get pissed off. And now I'm an adult. I bought my house here. I'm going to be here until my kids graduate. I'm not going anywhere. But I still run into the same shit where I have some friends. And even if it's corporate America or if it's, you have an older kid, it's just the two of you, you're downsizing. It's just hit me that this shit still happens.
Yeah.
And I've never been on the other end of it where I've been like, bye, you guys, I'm taking off to do something crazy.
Right.
How does it feel leaving everybody like that? I mean, I understand it's positive, but
yeah, like I said, it is good and bad. I mean, especially because I think we have been really lucky. So I'll start further back. My wife and I have kind of always done this. Like we grew up in a very small town in northern Michigan, and we made a very conscious effort to get as far away from there as we could when we went to college. So we moved 8 hours away to college. So, we had to say goodbye to all our high school friends. And then when we finished college, we packed up and moved to Los Angeles. And then after about 8 years, we packed up and moved to North Carolina. So all along saying goodbye to good friends, obviously. And we've always been really lucky because we've landed in spots where we've met really good people, like in California, in North Carolina. Because, you can end up on a shit street. You buy a house you don't know you're getting into. And we just got lucky. Like all of our neighbor, Loper knows most of the people on my street and on his street. Like we just have really good people. So that made it really difficult. But I think my wife and I have always just kind of felt like there's this huge world, and really we haven't even touched most of it because we've only moved around the States. But it just feels like people put up this like imaginary barrier. Like, well, I can't do that or whatever. Like I remember when I moved to Los Angeles, a lot of my friends from high school and college were like, man, I wish I could move to Los Angeles. And I'm like, you can, right? Like you can just sell everything you own and pack up and move anywhere you want. And I'm a big believer that like nothing is irreversible. You know what I mean? So like we got rid of everything we owned. We're selling our house. We moved here. But if we don't like it in 3 months, in fact, we were actually sitting at a bar last night watching the Golden Knights, #Go Knights Go. And,
go Knights!
Yeah, and
Eric Howla, baby, Minnesota boy.
I'm learning about the hockey because I was not a hockey fan before I moved here, but it's so crazy how fun hockey is in this place.
State of hockey. See, I got the hockey puck right here, little dog. I wanted to drop the puck at the start of the podcast and I already fucked that up.
So, we were sitting there having beers watching the game last night, and we're like, well, if we don't like it here by the time this rental is up, we'll just move to like Portland or something, or like Colorado. Like all we have to do is put the dogs in the car and drive. We only own enough stuff that it fits in 2 cars right now. So we might just move again. You never know. Or we might buy something and 3 years from now we sell it and move somewhere else. So yeah, it's tough, but it's like I almost think we kind of force ourselves to do it, like to get ourselves out of, because how you get into a not really a rut, but you get into a routine.
Yeah.
You said it the other day somewhere. I think maybe I was watching you on Twitch whenever you said you almost felt like the restaurants you were going to, everything, it was the same. It was always the same. You were going to the same fucking Mexican place. You're going to the same burger joint. You're going to the same bars, the same breweries over and over. Yeah. And you were just like,
Groundhog Day all over.
There's more than this, man. There's more.
Yeah, we would get in our car and we would start driving. I don't know why we always did this, but we would be like, you want to go out to eat? And we're like, sure. So we'd get in the car and we'd start pulling out of our driveway and we would go, well, where are we going? And we're like, well, we should try something new. And we would sit in our driveway for like 2 minutes, just like going, you want Mexican? You want pizza? And then we would go, let's just go to the Mexican place. Let's go to Los Tres. It's 3 minutes from the house. It's easy. We ate at Los Tres like twice a week for like 2 years. It's just like, and it got to the point where it was like, there weren't even really any new places that I wanted to check out. Like there was I would never see like a ad for a restaurant or anything where I would be like, oh, we have to go try that place. Let's go tomorrow, And now all of a sudden we're in a city where it's like there's 1,000 restaurants we haven't eaten at, or probably more like 5,000-10,000. I don't know. And it's just fun. Like we've been exploring breweries since we've been here. We've been to 5 or 6. And I think once you hit that point where you're just like, you wake up, you do the same thing every day, you eat at the same place, not that I don't love the people I was hanging out with, but you hang out with the same people every day. Eventually you just kind of like the time starts to go by faster and like life starts to get away from you. And before you know it, you're like, shit, where'd the last 10 years go? Like that was really weird. Like my kid's in my kid's about to graduate from college. And I feel like he went to college like a year ago.
Yeah. I remember him just as his little twerp on the neighborhood. Now he's like, he's a young man.
Yeah. It's insane to me. And I'm just like, okay. And we had started talking about moving really right when Andrew went to college. And then we were like, well, or actually really before that. And we said, well, let's wait till Andrew goes to college, then we'll move. And then when he went to college, we were like, well, let's give him a year or two to settle in, make sure he's all good, and then we'll move. And then the next thing we knew, he's like, well, I'm graduating in December. And I'm like, shit, we got to get going. Where are we going? So we decided to move here basically 3 weeks before we got in the car and started driving. That was the turnaround time.
Wow. So did it take a lot of convincing for your wife to move to Vegas, or?
No, she was really the main driver behind moving. Like I was pretty content with staying in North Carolina, but maybe just doing a lot more traveling. Like I was like, why don't we go to Vegas for the summer and just live for 2 months, and then we'll come back, and then we'll go somewhere else for 3 months, and then we'll come back. But she was really tired of having such a big house. Sick brag. She was just like, there's like ridiculous that we have this much house for 2 people, and I'm not the biggest helper in terms of cleaning and stuff. So she was like, I got to clean all these rooms that we don't even use, and she's like, I want to sell, and I'm like, all right. And then I would say it was probably a 20-minute discussion about where we were going to move, and we kind of did it much like when we moved to North Carolina, which was that we just immediately eliminated probably 45 states, and then from that 5, we were like, well, I was going to go to Vegas anyway in a month or 2, so why don't we just go there? And Leon's like, okay.
So why did you guys eliminate Minnesota? I got to know.
Well, we're from northern Michigan, so we didn't really want to go back to some place that, not that Minnesota's the same place, but we didn't want to go back to a similar climate and geography and all that kind of stuff. We just wanted something new. Like
I feel like you're being PC, brother.
I'm really. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of the Upper Midwest, but not because of people or food or anything like that. In fact, they're obviously some of the nicest people, and they have amazing culture and great food and really good beer scene too up in that area. But I hate cold weather. Having grown up in it, I was just like we were like, okay, well we looked at the map. We're like, okay, we can't move anywhere north of here. And then there's this huge section of the South where it's like Alabama, Mississippi. We're like, we can't go to any of those states.
No.
Texas, out. So it really only left a handful of places. And one of them was actually like South Carolina, but kind of for the same reason. Like, we loved North Carolina while we were there, but we've kind of felt like moving to South Carolina was just kind of like moving down the street. It'd be like kind of the same vibe, you know?
What were you thinking in South Carolina, like Greenville or something like that?
We were kind of thinking like Charleston.
Oh, okay.
Just because it would be kind of cool and hip.
Yeah, okay.
So, but because we looked at Charleston actually when we moved to Raleigh, we looked at it as an option along with Asheville. Like, Asheville's another good example. Like, we've talked about Asheville, but we've been to Asheville like 20 times. And we're just like, I've been there, done that, you know? So.
Well, how was the road trip, man? I know it took, you vlogged a lot of it, or not vlogged, I guess, but in real life it via Twitch. So you had some company for a lot of the ride. I logged on and could see the wind out the windshield, and it was just a little bumpy ride out into cool. La La Land. But anything crazy happen? Anything, you know?
Amazingly, not really. It was the most uneventful road trip I've ever done. I've done a lot of cross country driving. I've been back and forth across the country probably 7 or 8 times driving, and I love driving by myself. It's like, to me, it's one of the most fun things to do ever. Like, to get in your car and drive wherever for 3 or 4 days all alone, just like listen to podcasts, listen to music, talk to yourself, you know, whatever.
It's almost therapeutic, isn't it?
Oh, yes. You know, they always talk about like, you need your me time or your alone time. Like, that's the best kind of alone time to me. Especially because in that process, you can also do what we were talking about: stop at new restaurants, stop at new breweries, you know, experience new things. But this was much more challenging because my wife was traveling with me, and we had 2 separate cars. So, and we had 3 dogs. So it made it much more tedious. Because I love the fact that my wife was traveling with me, but she wasn't even in the same car. So it was kind of like I was driving alone, but I didn't get any of the benefits of driving alone, because there was a lot of like, you know, like texts coming in, like, we got to pull over and walk the dogs. We need to get food. I need more water for the dogs, or where are we sleeping tonight? Or, you know, and what I've learned is that a lot of hotels accept dogs, but very few accept more than 2 dogs. And we have 3. So that was kind of a nightmare. Like, we had to, you know, lie to every hotel we stayed at. Like, oh yeah, we have 2 dogs. And my wife would sneak one in under the blanket. And
that's what I do with my kids.
But the good news was there was no, like, we didn't hit a single rush hour. Like, we just happened to, some things we timed purposely. Like, we'd wake up at the right time to like miss Albuquerque or whatever. But we didn't hit a single city of rush hour. We had no car breakdowns. We didn't see a single accident. Didn't get pulled over. With the exception of driving near some tornadoes in Oklahoma, we hit no weather. Like, it never rained, it never stormed or anything like that. And that's really rare, because every time I've driven across the country, I've had incidents, you know, of some kind or another, you know, massive hailstorm or tornadoes that you can see, or, you know, things like that. So it was like we planned it to take 4 days, with the idea that it might take 5, because we didn't know how well the dogs would travel. And we ended up doing it in 3 days and about 3 hours. The last day was about a 2 or 3 hour drive. So it was just super smooth.
Your house, whenever you showed up, it was ready, turnkey, walk in and get settled in right away? Yeah,
like, we pulled into the driveway. The leasing agent was parked outside. He came in, had me sign some papers. He's like, here's where the light switches are. You know, here's how you water the lawn. He handed us the keys. And like I said, because we brought such little stuff with us, like, the move-in process took about 15 minutes. Like, roll in some suitcases. I brought my desk and my computer in. I mean, it took me longer to set up my computer than it took me to unload the cars. So we were literally, you know, we met the agent at 2. We were probably settled in by 3:30.
See his chair there, Josh. I tried to get his chair from him. He said, "No, I'm taking that with me."
I'm taking that.
Loper, I never told you this, but the day we were moving, or the day before, because I packed the Jeep the night before, I was trying to get everything in, and I could not get this chair to fit right to save my life.
See?
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to text Loper and tell him he can have the chair.
And there it is in Vegas.
And then I like did the back lever, and it folded up sort of like into a taco shell, and then I just fit. and I was like, "Whew, got it in there."
So glad I didn't text Steve.
You see this makeshift TPE chair I've got right here, right?
Oh, I like that.
You know, it's got my little patch.
How did I not notice that before? I guess because you're sitting in front of it.
You know,
that's awesome.
But all right, man. Josh, do you have any questions? I told him about 30 minutes. It's been a little bit over. So
are we? Dude, we always go over, and this has been so much fun.
We're gonna respect Derek's time, man. He's got the rest of the afternoon to enjoy things. I got to get cooking dinner, all this crazy stuff. It's dinner time around here.
What are we having tonight?
Homemade pizza. They're all the kids and the family are at the pool doing swim team, which I know you're a big fan of swim team.
That's really why I left. I have to be honest.
Yeah,
I left because of the swim team.
You got to see me. I'm so in love with the swim team and making the community better that I've joined all these boards and stuff like that. But yesterday I was out there with my blower, blowing off the deck because I just don't understand how these lifeguards and stuff, the people that work there, don't blow off the pine straw off the deck. Like this is a reflection on our community, guys. People see this, so I stepped up and did it my damn self.
When I started running the tasting room at the brewery, which is the equivalent of a bar for people who aren't familiar with brewery tasting rooms, I always told our bartenders to treat the place like it's your living room. Like, would you let that stain sit there on the table for 3 hours if it was in your living room? Now, the problem is that some of them would. But that was kind of my philosophy. And I take that philosophy with every job. Like, if I was the pool guy and I saw like a bunch of crap up, laying on the deck or whatever, it would just bother me too much to leave it there.
Yeah. My sister works at a hair salon, and she was going to have me come in and talk to her or not her clients, but her other hairstylist in the place. And I was putting together some advice that I would give them. And one of them was clean your station. Like, don't just have it presentable, make people want to come and sit there and enjoy the experience, not just, thrown together, just put it together. It's just so simple and basic rules,
Yeah. Well, I can tell by looking at your office there that you're a clean guy. Everything's organized.
Well,
maybe that's not your desk. My bad.
The wife's desk.
Yeah, that's because him and the wife share an office. Otherwise, no, actually, you got it together, Lope.
I had about 6 cans of soda on here earlier. They're right here.
I thought you quit.
Soda?
Yeah.
I do every 6 months for about a month, lose 10 pounds, and then get right back on.
Oh boy, dude, you were. Not that I can't tell, obviously, because all we do is this, like a bunch of weirdos. But you were looking like real trim in Miami, dude. You were on that South Beach diet and shit.
Well, that was me and KB here, man. We got inspired. We did a 300,000 steps in 30 days challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, we were walking an average of 10,000 steps a day. We did it for the whole month of January. It was January, right?
Good. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because it was still pretty cold. Ooh, there were some cold days.
Yeah,
I thought about doing it again when I did that. I don't know if you saw. I sent our text group something the other day where I walked like 22,000 steps one day.
Yeah. So like
9
miles or something.
I'm like, maybe I should start another step challenge right now because I have a head start. And then I remembered I'm in Las Vegas and it's 100 degrees outside. I'm like, nah.
No.
I'll wait for the fall.
I was hoping at the end of that challenge, it felt so good. Like anytime you accomplish a goal, it feels good, right? Like if you set a goal and you reach it, you're on top of the world. So I was like, man, if I finish this, I hope that good feeling carries me into February. It makes me do it. I ain't been on a walk since January 31st.
Damn.
I know.
I felt myself getting kind of addicted too. Like I really enjoyed, kind of for the same reason I was talking about, like enjoying a cross country drive by myself. I enjoyed the walks for the same reason.
I loved it. I
would just go out and do like 2, 3. Because I mostly did mine in like little stages. So I'd go out for, walk for 30 minutes. And I just felt so good. Like I had so much more energy, and it was time out of the house, away from family and dogs and work and everything. And I remember thinking halfway through, I'm like, I think I might keep walking. And you're right. As soon as it ended, it was just like, over.
So fellas, my question is, because I've often thought about this, like, why is it that something that feels so good, like walking, or like for me going to the gym, you get that pump on, like your boy Danny, it feels so good when you get done with it. You feel good about yourself. You got this adrenaline going, yet you don't continue to do it. Like, what? Why? I don't. It felt so good.
Yeah,
but I think it's continue it.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with things that feel bad. Like you get drunk, and then the next day you're hungover, and you feel like shit for 2 days, and you say you're never gonna drink again, and then 3 days later you're like, maybe want to grab a beer. Like I
I know,
continually
right?
do things, or like eating food that's bad for you, and then like as soon as you're done eating, you're just like,
You're
oh,
like
I
your
feel
stomach feels
terrible.
like
Like,
shit.
yeah, like I'm never having a Big Mac again. And then like a day later, you're like, man, I could go for a Big Mac.
I love
It's
it.
the weirdest thing.
It's so weird.
You saw my Big Mac video yesterday, didn't you?
Yes, I did. That was great.
Yeah.
I've always wanted this. Like, there's nothing that's good for you that is really, really enjoyable, I think. Like, I can't think of anything. Like, healthy food doesn't, like, why isn't there some food that is amazingly good for you and also like something you crave 24 hours a day, like, like you would chocolate or beer or whiskey or whatever?
Yeah.
Or why isn't there something you can smoke that's super good for you?
Or like, why doesn't
I guess it kind of is, but
why doesn't water taste like Coca-Cola?
yeah,
You know?
like water doesn't taste good to me. Exercise doesn't feel good to me.
Yep.
Drugs will kill you eventually. Like all the things that are really, really enjoyable are bad in the long run.
Being that you are in Las Vegas, go Knights, what up? You are in the weed capital of the world. Well, maybe not, but if you do too much weed, you just pass out. So I mean that maybe that's a sign that
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not, but I do I do want to respect Derek's time. He is the heavy hitter. He almost should be the one that is the host of the Heavy Hitter Show. He's had a podcast for 8 years. Dude's huge on Twitch. Make sure you check out Tournament Poker Edge. Derek, I'm just curious, like, are you comfortable with giving away what the price is every month for that?
Yeah, no problem. It's $39.95 a month. And then there's also a quarterly and an annual subscription that'll get you a pretty decent discount. So if you were to get like an annual, it's $2.99. So you'd be looking at like, well, I guess like $25 a month. So somewhere in that $25 to $35 a month range, basically.
Okay, cool, man. And here's the reason I asked, because I'm going to throw it out to Derek for the question of the day. And our question of the day, it might not be something that is going to be answered today or tomorrow, but the person that answers, our first person to engage with the Heavy Hitter podcast, I'm going to buy them a quarterly membership to Tournament Poker's Edge, so their ass can learn how to play poker. Derek, what's the question of the day, brother? It's your time.
Man. That's a good question. Can I have an example of a previous question of the day?
This is the inaugural question of the day, bro.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It is. So it can be whatever you want. I saw, I'm not even gonna mention his name on this. I said I wouldn't, so I'm gonna stick to it. But he suggested that the person of the winery, use it for any kind of insights into what they're doing. So whether it could be whatever you want. I mean, how often you play poker? Do you whatever you want it to do?
All right, here's my question of the day, because I am actually kind of interested in this. And I'm glad you kind of guided me that way, because this is actually something I've been thinking about. I mentioned earlier the idea or the fact that there's this new sort of sweeping Supreme Court decision about sports betting, and I was having a conversation. So a lot of people in poker also sports bet and do like daily fantasy sports and gamble in other ways. But I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine. I was like, I wonder how many like average, quote unquote, average Joes who aren't poker players, aren't gamblers in general, like how many people are really going to start betting on football just because it's now legal in their state? You know what I mean? So like, is Joe Smith, who lives 3 doors down from you in like Ohio, is he going to start betting like the day that sports gambling is legal in Ohio? Or are they just going to like, well, I don't sports bet now, so why would I start just because it's legal? So the question of the day is, if sports betting is legalized in your state, will you start betting on sports? Either on a small level, like just for fun, or, on a massive level, which I don't suggest. But will you sports bet at all just because it's now suddenly legal in your state? Question of the day.
Love it. That's an awesome question.
Derek, thank you so much for joining us today, man. I'm going to miss you here, but I know we're close now with all this technology that we have. I'll see you out in Vegas soon. Josh, up in Minnesota, I'm glad the warm weather has finally hit and stuck and is going to stay around. You wear the shades outside. You wear the shades inside. You keep being you, the savage Josh Johnson. My name is Steve Loper, a.k.a. Lopercon. Look us up on iTunes. Look us up on Anchor, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Killingbird, at Josh Johnson, MN, and at Lopercon. Thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, heavy hitters.